Now that we have this gorgeous image, what's important to note is that other people can't see it. Right now it's an Illustrator file, and you need to start getting familiar with file types. Whenever you open any file, it's opening it up in a specific program because the file type is telling the computer, this is this type of file and it needs to be opened with this program. So for instance, let's take a document, right? You have a Word document. How does the computer know when you open up that file from the File Explorer that it should be opened in Word? How does it know that a picture should be opened in Picture Viewer? How does it know that a PDF should be opened with Adobe Reader? Or that a presentation should be opened with PowerPoint? It's because of the file type. So when we go to a File Explorer window, for instance, looking at files, I'm just going to take this one for instance. If you are in the view where you're just looking at icons, you just see things like this, where you're just seeing icons, okay? You're probably only seeing the names of those, where like you see what the file has been named and you're moving forward. But did you know that there's a file extension that sits at the end of that name that tells the computer what kind of file this is? Like that this is a font and this is an Illustrator file? Up here on the ribbon, if yours is collapsed like this, you can double click to hit view. And if you're in a Mac, it might be in a different location. But you can choose this check mark under view to show file name extensions. And that'll show you the ending piece of each of these files. You can see that all four of these end in a .ai, whereas this one ends in a .ttf. That tells you that this is a true type font file, and this is an Adobe Illustrator file. And you can even see that when you hover over them, they say what type of file they are. If you go into detail view, you'll even be able to see the type over here, and that's all based off of this file extension. If I go back to my remote learning folder showing you even more files, you can see I've got PNGs, which are images, CSV files, which will get opened by Excel, PDFs, which get opened by Adobe PDF, and other pictures here. If I go into different areas, I would have multiple different file extensions, and that would show the computer how to open it. But what's important is notice these AI files, these Illustrator files, can't be previewed if you don't have Illustrator. And that's what we're working in right now. It has a lesson file of treewithfence.ai Illustrator. So if you wanted to send this to like your mom, you couldn't because she doesn't have Illustrator most likely, unless she uses it for something important. Not important, but something for graphics. Most people don't have Illustrator. It's not like a common program that we find on most computers. So we want to turn this into an image that anyone can see. So right now we can save it, and that's great. It's an Illustrator file. But now what we're going to do is we're going to export it. We're going to export it and remove it from Illustrator and turn it into a different file type as an image that other people can see. So when we do that, we can export for screens. So take your image, have it open in an Illustrator file, and let's go export it for screens. In this dialog box, you're going to get some options, and my screen is making it be very small, so hold on, let me resize it. And you have availability to change a lot of things in here. The first thing is which artboards are getting exported. Well, this artboard over here was one that I don't really need because it's only got a box and mine still has a hat on it, so I'm going to uncheck that. But I do want to export the second artboard, and it's got the tree and everything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and name it last name, tree with fence, and then completed. So that way I know it's the completed file with everything I need. And then you just click out of it to go ahead and keep the name what you had it. The next thing you have is like, what do you want to include and actually export? So you can see the range has changed to 2 because only the second artboard is selected. Where do I want to put it? I can go ahead and click the folder icon, and I can go navigate to a folder. And I highly suggest that if you don't have a Digital Design 1 or Digital Design folder, you should probably make one on your computer so you can save stuff into it. The next thing you have is opening after a location after export or creating a subfolder. I would highly suggest you uncheck this because then it's going to turn it into another type of file, and we don't really need that. You don't need folders within folders holding all these files. If you click open with a location after export with the check mark, it's just going to show you the folder where the file is, which is great for you to be able to find it. The last part is how do you want to adjust it? Do you want it to be like what kind of format? What's that file extension? You want it to end the dot whatever. Do you want to be a dot PNG, a dot JPEG, a dot GIF? And there's different kinds. A PNG has a transparent background, a JPEG doesn't, and a GIF has a very limited number of colors. So in this case, we can do like a PNG or a JPEG 100 or a PNG 8 using those different values. If you do a JPEG 100, that's the highest format at 100. And you can see here that it's adding a suffix, which means that it's going to say the artboard name. You can see down below where it says like right here, if you look when I hover over it, it's going to say artboard name -100.jpg. So it's going to add a 100 to it. We can delete that, so that way it only says the artboard name and no suffix. And you can see that now it's just going to say whatever we named it over here on the left, and then .jpg, but it is going to put the .jpg at the end of it. We can then export the artboard, and that's going to export what we've done with our files. And it should open up a file explorer window showing you where that file is. So here's my last name with fence completed. Notice it is a .jpg. And this is important because you're going to need to upload this. And this would be something you could send to anybody because everybody can look at a JPEG. In addition, it makes a change, so you might want to save it because you can see this little asterisk right here that always shows when we have changes made. We hit Control S and we save it, and that asterisk disappears. Don't forget that when you're uploading files for assignments, you need to be uploading both the working file, the Illustrator or Photoshop or whatever file, and an exported version like a JPEG or a PNG or whatever somebody can view, even if they don't have these programs on their computer.